Good day everyone, I'm Ivan, the moderator for this webinar. I welcome everyone to today's webinar, which is Managing and Documenting Underperformance Employees. I want to introduce our presenter for today, Carolyn D. Riggins. Carolyn D. Riggins is the founder and owner of CDR Consulting Services LLC in Atlanta's Greater District, Georgia. For 35 years, Ms. Riggins worked in retail banking at First Florida Bank, Barnett Bank, Mercantile Bank, and TD Bank. I would now like to hand over the floor to the speaker. Over to you, Caroline.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for this great opportunity. I am excited. Today, I have the honor to be in your presence. We're going to cover a great topic that is very important, not just for you, but for your employees and your organization. And we're going to talk about managing and documenting underperforming employees. And we know sometimes that can be challenging, but today I want you to walk away with some information, some resources, some ways of how you can approach it differently and how you can see the impact that you will make, not just for yourself, but for your employees, for your organization, and for your customers. We're going to talk about a topic that all managers experience, at all levels, from entry level to senior management. This is something that affects a lot of leaders. Now, we're going to talk about mastering some standards. We're going to be talk about how you can be clear. How do we do this? What are some of the tools that we can use to help? What does it mean to manage and document underperforming employees? Who are underperforming employees? These are employees who are not producing productivity. What do they do to be considered underperforming? Now we're going to talk about what's important, and that's the foundation, standards and expectation. First thing that we want to do is it's called the smarter. Now we're going to talk about writing bulletproof job description. Now, performance standards communication process. As a leader, what do we have to do? What's required of you? Here's some common standards setting mistakes to avoid, okay? Now, documentation that holds up. When you do documentation, you have within 48 hours, 24 hours to 48 hours to address that issue. Now, again, this is the start more of, again, we talk about the situation, the task and action and results. Now, the do's and don'ts. Be very specific about the date and time and what happened, location, everything. This is important. I want to give you just this is a very generic performance documentation template. Talk about what's required. I like how this is just an example for you to see. And of course, you always want to make sure that you do timelines, check-in points, follow-ups. Managers, this is important. And again, you want to make sure everybody signs it. It's important to make sure employees have their comments be written on there. We got to talk about coaching, the performance improvement plan, and the corrective action plan. What does that mean? So let's define a performance improvement plan and a CAP. So we're talking about the PIP and the CAP. And how does it works together? Coaching, conversations. I love coaching. I do really, really do. This is the foundation. This is where you get to learn a lot from your employees. Now, when to move from coaching to formal actions. Now, performance improvement plan structured and the performance improvement plan, timeline, durations, best practice, corrective actions beyond PIP. Again, this is where you have different formats. And again, skip steps when immediate actions are required. The best practices, key practices, always keep documentation and in putting it all together. This is important for you to make sure that anytime you are doing a performance improvement plan for the first time, putting it all together, be clear about it. We're going to talk about protective leave and disabilities. And again, this is something that a lot of leadership, we get a little bit nervous about. You have to make sure you don't assume, you don't guess. You don't have to be an expert to know these, to do accommodation, workers' compensations, and performance issues. Mental health accommodation performance, again, and retaliation and time awareness, protected activities under anti-retaliation laws. And then, timing red flags that suggest retaliation, immediate reaction. We cannot do that. You want to be solid at what you do. You want to make sure that you protect yourself. You want to have building a retaliation-proof documentation. And in tough conversations, you want to make sure that when you're having, let's make them simple for you. Prepare the framework for difficult conversation. This is where we are challenged. Language, be careful about what you're saying when it comes to having that conversation. These are just some scripts that talks about, the opening conversation. Emotional intelligence, this is important as well too. Anytime you're dealing with documentation for performance issues or behaviors, handling calming employees' reactions, documentations after different conversation, accountability. This is important, and this is a systematic right here, accountability. And again, a 30-day accountability. You want to follow through. This is important, as I said before. And again, weekly accountability. This is something as a leader you want to hold yourself accountable by having meetings with them. And in the dashboard, again, everybody has their own way of doing it, but make sure if you're dealing with performance issue, always talk with HR. Don't give an employee a laundry list. And then we talk about the gaps before. So performance gap analysis. Just make sure you acknowledge what's taking place. These are some questions I'm going to provide for you. You can keep this as well on the when not to escalate and alternate solutions. And then most of all, I want to leave this with you because as a manager, you have a great decision to make. Always make sure you address the performance issues. Be aware of the seriousness of the violations, understand the root cause, and understand the final outcome. All depends on you. So I leave this decision making to you to make sure that you are managing and documenting underperforming employees. I thank you all today for this great opportunity. And I know it's a lot of information. Again, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for attending this webinar training today, and continue to get the training that you deserve. And again, if you're part of the HR team already, talk with your leadership and find out the things that you need to be within compliance of your industry, your organization, your compliance regulations, all of that. Because you don't want to be in a position where you are vulnerable, and it can put your organization at a risk. And so you want to be consistent across the board and train your leaders to use the document. Thank you all for attending this training today. Continue to invest in yourself. Don't let this be the first. Let it be the beginning. Thank you.
Thank you, Caroline. That concludes the session for today. Thank you everyone for participating. You may all disconnect now and you may have a great day ahead. Bye.